first time my boss asked me if she was prettier than my date, I thought she was joking. But the way her voice lingered in the air, sharp, quiet, and almost trembling, told me she wasn't. Asterisk, it was a question that didn't belong in an office. It didn't belong between deadlines, spreadsheets, and coffee-stained desks. And yet, there it was, hanging between us like a secret neither of us had ever dared to speak out loud. Asterisk, before we dive into this story, take a moment if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet ways people change each other's lives. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Asterisk, I had been working at the firm in Chicago for nearly 3 years when all of this happened. My name is Jacob, and for most of my life I had been invisible in rooms that mattered, not because I lacked skill, but because I lacked presence. I was the kind of man people trusted with responsibility, but never really noticed beyond that. That changed when Rachel became my boss. Rachel wasn't just confident, she was magnetic. She carried herself with a kind of controlled intensity that made people listen even before she spoke. She wasn't loud or flashy, but when she walked into a room, conversations shifted. People adjusted their posture, their tone, their energy. Asterisk in me? I avoided looking at her longer than necessary. Asterisk, it wasn't just because she was attractive, though she was undeniably so. It was because being around her made me aware of every insecurity I had spent years trying to bury. She reminded me of the version of life I never thought I'd reach. Asterisk, at first, our interactions were strictly professional. She respected my work, gave me space, and never micromanaged. But over time, something shifted. She started asking me about things beyond work. What I did on weekends. What kind of music I liked. Whether I had family nearby. Asterisk, I didn't think much of it. I told myself she was just being a good leader. Asterisk. But then there were moments. Small ones. Like the time she noticed. I skipped lunch 3 days in a row and quietly left a sandwich on my desk without saying a word. Or when she stayed late one evening, not because she had to, but because I was still working. I think she didn't want me to be the only one there. She never acknowledged those things, and neither did I. We just existed in that quiet understanding. Asterisk, so. When I casually mentioned one Friday afternoon that I had a date that evening, I didn't expect it to matter. Asterisk, I remember it clearly. The office was nearly empty, golden lights spilling through the windows as the city began to slow down. Rachel was standing by my desk, reviewing a report I had just finished. Asterisk, without thinking. I said it. Asterisk, I might head out a bit early today. I have a date. The words felt ordinary, harmless. But something in the air shifted. Asterisk, she didn't respond immediately. She just kept looking at the report, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she placed the papers down and looked at me. Asterisk, and that's when she asked it. Asterisk, is she prettier than I am? Asterisk, the question didn't come out playful. It wasn't teasing. It was quiet, careful, almost like she wasn't sure she should have said it at all. I froze. My mind scrambled for a response. Nothing felt right. Anything I said would mean something. Too much. So I gave the safest answer I could. It's not like that. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Of course it's not, said softly, before turning away and walking back to her office. Asterisk. I stood there long after she left, trying to understand what had just happened. Asterisk, that night. The date felt like a performance I didn't belong in. Asterisk, her name was Hannah. She was kind, funny, and easy to talk to. By all measures, it should have been a good evening. But my mind kept drifting back to Rachel too, the way her voice had sounded, to the look in her eyes, to the question. I realized something uncomfortable as I sat across from Hannah, half listening to her story about her childhood in Ohio. Asterisk. Wasn't thinking about my date. Asterisk, I was thinking about my boss. Asterisk, and that realization unsettled me more than anything else. Asterisk, over the next few weeks, things between Rachel and me changed, but not in obvious ways. We didn't talk about that moment. We didn't reference it. Asterisk. But there was a tension now. A quiet awareness that hadn't been there before. Asterisk, she became more distant, in some ways more formal during meetings. More precise with her words, but in other ways, she seemed more present. Like she was watching me more closely, noticing things she hadn't before, and I found myself doing the same. I started paying attention to the little details, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking, the way her voice softened when she spoke to interns, the way she lingered by the window at the end of the day, as if she wasn't quite ready to leave. Asterisk, it felt like we were both standing on the edge of something neither of us knew how to step into. Then one evening, everything changed. It was late. Almost everyone had gone home. I was finishing up a report when I noticed Rachel still in her office, the lights dimmed. Her posture slumped in a way I'd never seen before. Something felt off. I hesitated and knocked gently on her door. Asterisk, she looked up, startled. Asterisk, for a moment, I saw something in her expression I had never seen before. Vulnerability, raw and unguarded. Asterisk, are you okay? I asked. She let out a small, tired laugh. That depends, she said. Do you want the professional answer or the honest one? No. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. The honest one. Asterisk. She looked at me for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust me with something she had kept hidden for a long time. Asterisk.
Asterisk.
Then she spoke. Asterisk, I don't remember the last time I felt chosen. The words were simple, but they carried weight. She told me about her life, how she had spent years building her career, always being the strong one, the reliable one people depended on but never really saw beyond that. Asterisk. She had relationships, she said, but they always ended the same way. She was admired, respected, but never truly loved. Asterisk, people see what I am, she said quietly. They don't see who I am. Asterisk, and suddenly, everything made sense. The question, the tension, the way she had looked at me that day. It wasn't about the date. Asterisk, it was about something deeper. Asterisk, I see you, said before I could stop myself. The words hung in the air. She searched my face as if trying to determine whether I meant them. Asterisk, do you? She asked. And in that moment, I realized I did. Not the boss. Asterisk. Not the confident. Composed leader, everyone admired. But the person underneath. The one who stayed late, not because she had to, but because she didn't want to be alone. Asterisk, the one who left sandwiches on desks and asked questions she didn't have the courage to fully understand. Asterisk, I do.
I said again.
More firmly this time. What followed wasn't sudden or dramatic. There was no grand confession, no sweeping moment of romance, just a quiet shift. We started talking more really talking. It's about things that had nothing to do with work, about fears, regrets, dreams we had buried under responsibilities. It wasn't easy. There were doubts, boundaries, moments where we pulled back. I'm sure if we were crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. Asterisk. But slowly, carefully, something real began to grow. Asterisk. In one evening months later, as we stood outside the office building watching the city lights flicker on, she turned to me and asked a different question. Asterisk. Do you still go on dates? She said. I shook my head. Not anymore. She smiled this time. It reached her eyes. Good, she said softly. Asterisk, if this story has touched your heart even a little, take a moment right now to like, comment, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Asterisk, and before we reach the end, I have a small request comment below with the word second chance. If you believe people deserve to be seen for who they truly are, asterisk, because sometimes the most unexpected connections are the ones that change us the most. Asterisk, Rachel and I didn't rush into anything. We took our time. We respected the complexities of our situation, the risks, the reality of what it meant to turn something unspoken into something real. Asterisk, but in the end, it wasn't about the rules or the expectations. Asterisk, it was about the choice, the The choice to see someone, to understand them, to stay. And 1 year later, as I stood beside her in a quiet park in Chicago, holding her hand as the wind rustled through the trees, I realized something I had never fully understood before. Love doesn't always arrive in obvious ways. Sometimes it hides in questions that don't make sense at first. Asterisk sometimes. It waits in silence, in hesitation. In moments that feel uncomfortable or confusing, asterisk, and sometimes it begins with a simple, unexpected question. Asterisk, is she prettier than I am? Asterisk. Question that, in the end, was never about beauty at all. It was about being seen, and finally being chosen.